Good morning, students. So in the last class we discussed the introduction of operating system and what are the different facets of operating system, and the different weavers, how the different weavers weave the operating system, like school children, a technician, programmer, right? And uh, so in today's class we will discuss the goals of an operating system, right? So there are three goals of an operating system. The first one is efficient use. What do you mean by efficient use? It ensures the efficient use of computer resources, right? So it will make use of, the operating system will make use of uh, uh, different resources which are available in the computer, and it will make sure that those all resources which are available in the computer system are efficiently used, and they are given to the programmer or the user. uh, that is the meaning of efficient use. Next, user convenience. The OS should provide the convenient methods of using a computer system, right? So as we discussed in the last class, there are two types of methods which can be used to interface with the computer system. One is called the command line interface, that is CLI, in short what we call it as CLI, right? uh, this is one method of accessing the operating system or the computer system. And the second method is GUI. GUI is nothing but the graphical user interface. So in graphical user interface we will use the mouse clicks. Right now what I am using is a GUI interface. We use a mouse clicks, or I can use a touch screen technology, right? So I can use a touch screen technology, right? So but in case of CLI, that is command line interface, right? In the case of command line interface, we use different commands to access the operating system. We use different commands to access that operating system, right? So commands in the sense, the earlier computer systems which were having the disk operating system, in short what we call it as DOS. DOS is a disk operating system, Unix, right? So in earlier systems, the user used to access the operating system or the computer system using different commands. So in that case you need to remember all the commands which are used to access the computer system. So that is cumbersome. So that then the technology has advanced. And we got a graphical user interface where we can create a new folder. We can we can type a program. We can execute a program using a different using a graphical user interface, that is using a mouse or a touch screen. And touch screen, the mobiles what we use, they make use of touch screen technology, right? So where you will access a different folders and different softwares, different apps, using just touching a screen, right? So in the same way you can create a new folder, you can run a program using mouse clicks also. That is the technology of GUI, right? So the OS should be convenient. OS should provide a convenient platform for a user to use the computer system, right? So that is the meaning of user convenience, right? So now we do not find, nowhere we find this command line interface, right? So even Windows, right? So this GUI is implemented in Windows operating system now, right? Windows operating system, they all have GUI interface, right? Even GUI, that Windows have CLI. If you type CMD, go to start, then click on run. Then if you type CMD, then it will open a black screen. That is nothing but a command prompt. It will open a black screen which is called a command prompt. There you can also access using different commands. If you can create your own folder, you can create a file with a certain extension, right? That is done using commands, right? Next, the third one is non-interference. What do you mean by non-interference? The interference is nothing but a disturbance, right? So OS should provide a platform not to be disturbed to not to be disturbed for so OS should provide a non-interference or non-disturbance of one user or accessing the another user files, right? So for example, if user 1 wants to access the user 2 files, right? Let us say user 2 has provided some security to his files, and he has given some password or some protection to his files, right? So let us say user A wants to access the user B, then he must request the user B to give the authorization to his files, right? So then only the user A can access the files or the data of user B, right? So suddenly you cannot access without having a permission of user B. User A cannot access the data of user B, right? So OS should provide this non-interference, that is by providing a platform to create a resources for this user B, right? So creating a platform to give passwords and to protect his data, then it is nothing but non-interference, right? So OS should provide this non-interference also to its users. So moving to the next slide, we will see in detail. We will see what do you mean by efficient use, user convenience, and security and protection, right? So these three goals in detail. The efficient use, as I already explained, right? So efficient use is the OS should provide a platform to efficiently use the resources available in the computer system. An operating system must ensure efficient use of fundamental computer system resources of memory, right? So we will find the different resources as we discussed in the last class. Computer will be having a CPU, that is central processor unit, memory devices, IO devices, right? Such as disks, IO devices in the sense input and output disks, devices such as disks, right? And printers. Disks are nothing but the memory devices and printers are the output devices, right? So OS should provide a platform to make use of these resources efficiently. Next, to achieve a good efficiency, the OS must minimize the waste of resources by programs and also minimize its own overhead. What do you mean by this? So OS must minimize the waste of resources here in the sense, whenever the programmer requests for certain devices, then OS should provide those devices to that particular user, right? So once the user used those devices, then he should relinquish in the sense he should release those devices. Then the OS will take care of those devices again, and those devices will be reallocated to they are reallocated to the different users whenever the different user requests for the devices, right? So I hope you understood how do you mean by the efficient use, right? So the OS should provide a platform to use the different computer devices efficiently, and it should minimize the wastage of resources in the computer system, and it also minimize its own overhead. What do you mean by its own overhead? It is called the OS own overhead, in the sense here I am talking about the OS overhead. OS overhead in the sense, whenever the OS so what do you mean by OS overhead? OS is nothing but a software, right? So it is a program which will make use of a certain memory for its own use, right? So the OS overhead in the sense it will also make use of certain devices, right? So it's a program and it has to be stored in a memory, right? So it will make use of a memory, right? So once the booting starts, once the booting of a computer system starts, then what happens, that program has to jump from the memory to central processor unit to execute itself, right? So it should take a less memory and it should take less time to execute the entire operating system, right? So that is nothing but OS overhead, or the resources which are used to itself. The resources used for itself is nothing but the operating system overhead, because operating system also makes use of certain resources in the computer system, right? So those resources used by the operating system should be very less. So that is nothing but the overhead, operating system overhead, right? Next, the user convenience, right? So here in the user convenience, I already told the operating system should provide a convenient platform for the user, right? So in the earlier computer system, we had access to the computer system using commands, but nowadays we are accessing them using graphical user interface, or mouse clicks or touch screen, right? So that is nothing but the convenient platform which is provided by the operating system to the user. So let us discuss the user convenient in a more detail, right? So whenever user is accessing the computer system, what all he expects from the computer system, he will expect the number of devices should be allocated very fast, right? And sufficient number of devices should be allocated to his programs, and his program should be run in a very fast manner. Then the user friendly environment, that means he can access the computer system in very fast, or in a very easier manner, you can say. And if he wants to run multiple programs, then concurrency has to be maintained. What do you mean by concurrency is parallelism, right? So when he is running multiple programs on the computer system, right, the operating system should provide the environment to run all those programs in a parallel manner, right? And if he wants to access the internet, then the operating system should provide that platform to access the internet, and by installing the different browsers and all. Then if he wants to add, if user wants to add a new features to that computer system, or if he wants to add a new softwares, or you can say compilers, assemblers, whatever different softwares, if he wants to add to the computer system, the operating system should provide this platform to add new features to the computer system. Even if he wants to add some hardware also, like USB you will connect, right? So USB, if you connect to a computer system, then it will check the device drivers, it will install the device drivers automatically, and then it will try to access that the files which are present in the USB or a pen drive, you can say, right? So these are all the features which the user is going to expect from the computer system. The same what I discussed now is put forward in the form of what? A table, right? So first is a facet. Facet is nothing but the expectation of a user from the computer system. The first facet is fulfillment of necessity. What is the necessity of an user? It is ability to execute the programs and use the file system. Different files can be used, and he can execute different programs, right? Next, good service. What do you mean by good service? A speedy response to computational requests. If you ask for any let us say any home page of a Google, right? If you are asking a Google home page, then it should be the operating system should load that Google homepage in a very fast manner, right? So it should not take 1 hour or half an hour to load that particular page. Then if you can think if that is the case, you can think that the internet is slow, or operating system is not providing a very fast platform to access the internet, right? Next, user-friendly interfaces. User-friendly interfaces in the sense I already discussed the command line interface and GUI. That the easy to commands, easy to use commands and graphical user interface. Nowadays we are using graphical user interface itself, right? So in industry or in industry and all, some of the users again they will make use of these commands also. That is CLI, command line interface also, right? So next, a new programming model. New programming model in the sense concurrent model programming. That means whenever user wants to run multiple programs on the computer system, then OS should provide the platform to run his all programs at once, right? Concurrent in the sense is parallel programming, right? So he wants to run all those programs parallelly means at a same time, right? So that environment has to be provided by what? The operating system. Next, a web-oriented features means to set up web-enabled servers, right? So operating system or computer system can provide a platform to access a different internet browsers, right? Or a different, what you can say, Google, Yahoo, or different web machines, you can say, right? Google, Yahoo, Rediff Mail, Facebook, whatever you want to do on a computer system, that can be, that features has to be added to the computer system so that the user can access them for his future use. Next, the last one, that is evolution. Evolution in the sense, if you want to add, if your user wants to add any new features to the computer system, the operating system should provide a platform to add those new features to the computer system. The new features might be it might be a software side or a hardware side, right? So operating system should provide everything to the computers, to the user, so that he can do anything to the computer system. Moving to the next slide. Non-interference. So in the non-interference, I already told one user cannot access the other user files directly. So the other user has to provide some authorization to the first user. A third goal of an operating system is non-interference, right? A computer user can face different kinds of interference in his computational activities. Execution of his program can be disrupted by the actions of other persons, right? So let us say two persons are talking on the computer system, right? So they are sharing some important files, let us say account numbers and all, right? So the third person who is sitting somewhere, right, he is invisible, right? He is invisible, and he will try to catch the data which is communicated between A and B. He will try to catch the data. Let us say A is sending account number to B, then a user C may access that particular data. He may the term here is hack. What I wanted to say here is hack. He wants to hack, he hacks that data which is getting communicated between A and B, and he will try to steal that data, right, from the internet or from the computer, what you can say, computer system also you can say, right? So OS should provide protection for such things. That means it can provide ability to install the different antiviruses, right? And he can it can so it can provide a facility to avoid this hacking and all, right? So the user who is using a computer system, he should feel that his data is very secure, and it can be communicated to some other person, right? So OS is going to provide all these security kind of things, or non-interference kind of things to user data. OS can provide a platform to authorize the user files, and it can provide the environment to share the files data between different users without getting interfered to. This I already explained with the help of this diagram. Sometimes you might have been there are different users. You might have seen there are different users and one administrator. This is provided by the operating system, right? So one administrator will be there and some of the user will be there, and other users cannot access the files of administrator, right? So these are the different goals of an operating system, and in next class we will see in more detail of operating system.